Hey, welcome back everybody. We're going to take on Moby Dick this week. The great, well, I guess it's a drum solo technically on Led Zeppelin II, but the guitar intro on it is fantastic. There's a lot of little intricacies on that, and I want to take you through that. Hey, if you haven't already, love if you can go down and click subscribe and ring the bell. It lets you know every time I drop new content, which I do every week. And also, if you notice, I've got every one of my videos has jump links, and you can see on the red horizontal bar on YouTube if you want to scroll right to the part that you want to see and zero in on that. You can do that at any time. So first off, I'm sure many of you already know this, but this is in a version of a drop D tuning. So you need to take your standard tuning and you drop the low E string down a whole step to a D to match your D string, and leave the rest the same. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, yep, that's right, it's Led Zeppelin, so you need to have a little overdrive on there. Don't go too far. If you really listen to Led Zeppelin, you know, pretty much all their albums, but especially on the first and second and third albums, you think there's a lot of distortion on it, but really when you listen to it, it's really not a lot of hard clipping distortion. You can really hear the note very well. It's overdriven for sure. Anyway, I'm going on way too much. I could do a whole video on that alone. But so dial in a little bit of overdrive. Just don't kill it. Don't make it Metallica distortion, because it's not that. Okay. So first off, the riff. Okay, so the main riff. It's a normal sort of, well, I guess an abnormal blues progression. It's a blues progression. Those of you who are in the know of a little bit of music theory, it's a standard sort of 1-4-5. You know, the three chords that are involved here are D, G, and A, you know. But we have our drop D note on our low E string. So the way that riff is going to go is going to start on that low E string, and I'll just run through it slowly really quick. You just run through that part 4 times, and then you're going to go to your 4 chord, which is the G. Now normally your G note, root note, would be here, right? But you've tuned your guitar down, so this is now on the 5th fret is your G. You know, if you were to make a G chord, you would be doing this, right? So coming out of the first part and going into your G, and now you're into your G riff. Now here's the intricacy or the subtlety of how Page plays it when he gets to the G note. He does a pull-off. So, you know, if you learn the riff that we just did, you might be tempted then to go to the next part and finger it the same way. Right? But he actually does a pull-off. He doesn't play, he does a pull-off. And it's great because it gives you time to jump down to your B flat. So that's how you're doing your second part. Your third part is an A. So your root note for A is up here, right? And that little turnaround has a little boogie to it, right? So you're sort of methodical when you're clodding through those first 2. When you get up to your A, your turnaround, your 5 chord, and here's where it sort of does a little bit of swing. You want to introduce a little bit of swing into it. I over-exaggerated what he's doing there, but let's do that again. I'm going to do a quick open D, which I think I hear on there. So when you're doing that na 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 na, I hear a swing to it, how he's sort of doing it. So it's not that. It's, I may be making it up, but I feel like that's in there. I'm not doing it very well. Here we go. It's that part. Now to get to your last part out of that riff, you're bending up on G to get to your D note. And you're coming down to 2nd and 3rd fret. Is how I like to do it. I mean, the other way you could do it is, or it just doesn't feel right, you know? That feels more right to me, anyway. So, running through it one more time. And we're going to change. A chord, boogie, right? And that's the whole riff. Now when it starts going into the guitar solo parts, you can hear the rhythm is doing the same sort of figure, it's just stopping and letting the lead guitar take over. Right? It's all that. So that's really the rhythm part. You know, for me, the subtleties to really get there are when you go to the 4 chord, the G chord is that pull off. Sounds a lot closer to the record to me when you do that. It's Jimmy Page, so maybe he doesn't do it the same way twice, ever. But that's how it sounds to me. And then the other subtlety I think to nail is that on the A, on the 5 chord, it's that little boogie part. That part. Okay. All right, let's talk about the leads. Wow. So first of all, when you're listening to the record, there's actually he does 2 takes, or at least 2 takes, but there's 2 different takes that made it onto the record where he's playing the same thing. So he sort of, you know, I think it's a pan right, pan left, and he mimicked what he did. So whether they were orchestrated or he found the one when they were running through it in the studio and he said, okay, I'm going to double that. He doubled the ones that they landed on, right? So that's the first thing. What you're hearing are actually 2 guitars. And the whole thing about Jimmy Page and a lot of his lead playing, so, you know, a lot of people have a, you know, feeling about the level of sort of slop maybe that makes it into his playing. And, you know, whatever it is, it's great, right? But this sort of exaggerates it a little bit because you have 2 guitars doing it at the same time. So you're never going to actually get it exactly right when you're sort of doubling yourself. And it's great. It sort of creates this little chorusing. But a very cool effect. All right, so solo number 1. It's basically it's off of a Chuck Berry style riff, right? Chuck Berry. Or something like that, right? He's doing that. So here's how I hear him doing the first one. Right? So if I were to break that down even slower, it's a bend. Whoops. It's a bend. So he's picking those 2 separately in my ear. Rather than, or it's not really that, it's, right? And then he brings it back down. One more time slowly. Right? Okay. Now the next one, very cool riff, this next one. You're still up here on 10, and again, these are all off of the sort of D minor pentatonic, scale-ish kind of stuff, right? So we just did our Chuck Berry. We're going to do a bend now on the B string at 13, right? So you're going to position your index on 10 on the first string, and you're going to bend up on your B string first, right? And then going to go to my ear. And I sort of alternate the picking. I don't sort of do it the same way every time. Sometimes I'm finding myself doing all downstrokes. Actually, I think I do upstrokes. Either way, you can hear the notes. And then you're going to go up and you're going to grab 13 on the first string, and you do this cool little bend up where, you know, it's like a chicken. But you don't quite get to any real note. It's not like you bend it up to here. It's not that clean, right? You sort of just climb up a little. And then here's the awesome part of this riff. He's going to rake back down. And the way I position my finger is I'm going to bend up with my ring finger. And I'm coming back and I'm putting my index finger on 10 on first and second, and my middle finger at 12 on G. Because what you're going to come back and do is a version of, maybe you get this note, maybe you don't. Maybe this note is still on there. You just sort of just make it happen with wherever your finger is, right? All right. I always thought it was this before. It's not that. It's this note. It's a G note. So it's better if you sort of get one or two of those notes in there rather than a pure, because I can sort of hear he's hitting some notes. I think he's getting that B string note in there. Anyway, running through it one more time. That's the second one. The third one. All right, this is all pull-offs that happen. But the question is, what pull-offs? Like everybody knows he's doing a, but what is it? Well, here is what it is. The first string is pull-off on 3, 1 to 0. Same thing on the B string. On the G string, you're going to come up, it's now 4, 2, 0. So we did 3, 1, 0, 3, 1, 0. We're going to go 4, 2, 0, and then 3, 2, 0 on the D string. All right? And watch the timing on that. He's sort of rushing the beat. He's coming in on the front end of the beat on all of that. Right? The second time he goes around, he keeps going and he does a 3, 2, 0 on A, and then he's got to get himself back to a D. So you can also do a 3, 2, 0 on your sort of 6th string. Or whatever you want to do to get yourself back to D. It's sort of a mess, and I can't pick apart exactly what's happening at the end. But getting that 3, 2, 0 on the A string is a must, and then somehow just roll yourself back to a D. Something like that. Okay, and then last little lead riff, excellent little riff. This is a climb It's on sort of a D major pentatonic. And you hear Page do versions of this all over the place throughout his career. But I'll take you through it here slowly, okay? Now there's two guitars going on that do that. So what you're hearing on the record is, you know, there's a little bit of difference between the two. And one of the differences of the two for me is that last little bend. Like on one of the guitars at least is bending, it's getting above that D note, right? Maybe not quite that far. And maybe the second guitar is nailing it. That's one. Something like that. But when you layer them together, you get that cool little effect at the end. Anyway, let me break this down. So you're starting at 5 on the, if you think of this D chord, and the major scale that comes from that, you know, there's a you know, great run that's sort of all over the place in blues and rock songs to get you from this position up to this position, and it's some version of it's that. So he's building off of that, right? So the notes are, well, you can zoom in on here. I'm going to go slow. That's the first part. So to my ear, he hits that D note twice. And I think it's a hammer-on. Then you're just going to repeat the lick from that point to get up to your D. And maybe you play that twice. Maybe you play it once. And then that last bend is just your normal bend up on the B string up to the D. And I don't think you unison. You're not that. You're bending there. Right? Okay, so I'm going to run through the leads one time. I'll do it a little bit slower than the normal record speed, but we'll go through all 4 that we just learned, and I'll put them in context, okay? The first one is your Chuck Berry riff. Second one is building up off of that with your bend up to the D and a rake. Now you're going to your G chord. We're going to do our pull-offs. Now our major scale climb. And then that's it. Whoops, that was wrong. That's it. Now at the very end, it's interesting. So now that Jimmy Page put out the deluxe series, you know, he redid all the albums. He re-released all the albums, and if you listen to the deluxe series for Led Zeppelin II, he's got a version of Moby Dick where it's the original take all the way through without the big drum solo in the middle, because Bonham recorded that drum solo separately. So they did the open and the close, and then they split the tape, and he did the drum solo in between for 10 minutes or however long that thing is. On the normal song, on the normal record that we all grew up with, the song ends with C, A, and then it goes into the right? It goes into the next song, right? But with the deluxe version, we hear actually how the song really ended. And the song really ended with a big note back on the D. So it ended. He did one of those. Which is all right, well, cool. That's Moby Dick from Led Zeppelin II. What do you think? Did you learn anything new about that? Hey, if you haven't already, I'd love if you can click down and subscribe and ring the bell. It lets you know every time I release new content, which I do every single week. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this, and let me know if there's a song you want me to take on and do a similar type lesson like this of what you would like to hear. I'm always looking for ideas. All right, and until next week, take care, everybody.